Good evening. Welcome to the QCIS channel. Where on this channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, tonight, I'm going to piggyback off of a topic that I did last week, and I will get to zoning. I was supposed to do zoning this week, but I saw something even more interesting, and individuals need to understand it. Now, last week, I talked about real estate development, where you dealt with feasibility and finance. Well, to tie into that, I'm going to give you tonight an introduction to real estate. And when we talk about real estate, we deal with structures that are permanently attached to land. And examples may have a home, may have a industrial building, Trump Towers, condominiums. It's all real estate. Now, it's very important that you understand real estate. And tonight I'm going to give you an introduction to real estate. So I'm going to share my screen. And when we talk about real estate is the physical land in the buildings or other improvements permanently attached to it, which the land can be used for residential, commercial, or industrial purposes. Now, it is a tangible asset that can create or generate income, and it can increase over time. And it also serves as a component of wealth creation and the overall economy. Now, key types include residential, commercial, and industrial properties, each within its own regulations. So basically, investors can directly purchase property. Again, investors can directly purchase property or indirectly invest through vehicles like REITs. You see that term. Well, REIT stands for Real Estate Investment Trust. So, again, when we deal with real estate, I'm going to go ahead and give you a little bit more depth with my PowerPoint. So, introduction to real estate. And why should we study real estate? Well, with real estate, and something that I want to go into as well, there are many occupational opportunities. Again, within real estate, everybody thinks real estate is just selling houses. Oh, it's a lot more. It's a lot of areas that you can go into when it comes to real estate. And here are some of the opportunities. Be a broker, an agent, property management, also go into banking. You can be a mortgage lender, a title issuer, or something that I want to do. Home inspection and appraising goes hand in hand with real estate. You can also be a developer, an investor, or real estate attorney. Then you have your federal agencies like HUD, GSA, DFIC, Bureau of Land Management, Forest Services, etc. Then home ownership, pride of ownership. Now, some of this information is a little old, goes back to 2001, but the information when it comes to real estate is the same. Back then, roughly 2/3 of all Americans owned at least one home. Now, here's some statistics. In 2001, the number of billionaires dropped from 538 in 2000 to 497 in 2001. However, those billionaires who attribute their wealth to real estate went from 32 to 33. 15 of them were from the US. And some of the big names, our president, Donald Trump. Now, she's no longer with us, Leona Helmsley, and Sam Zell. Now, when you look at the statistics, you have your GDP, that's your gross domestic product. You have real estate, finance, and insurance, and manufacturing and durable goods. Now, if you look at the GDP, the gross domestic product is 100% of the GDP. Now, if you look at real estate, that is 11% of the GDP. Finance is 8.3, and manufacturing durable goods is 9.1% of the GDP. Now, one of the best investments you can make, well, real estate prices, again, that's real estate prices, have gone up in recent years while the stock market dropped. Now, again, this is back in the early 21st century. So, but it is true today. It is better to buy a first home before putting money in the market. Now, that's what Peter Lynch said. Now, Vice Chairman of Fidelity Management and Research Company, former manager of Fidelity's flagship Magellan Fund. That was Peter Lynch. Now, beyond the beneficial economics of home ownership, such as low down payments, capital appreciation, and tax deductions, there are key psychological reasons a home is a great investment. You aren't inclined to sell the roof over your head to satisfy a whim or escape a bear market. Also, there is no stock ticker for real estate investments on TV. Commentators mentioning that the house next to you declined 10%. Also, the average price increased nationally as about 5% for the past 10 years. Now, it doesn't sound like much, but if you buy a $100,000 house and you put 20% down and it goes up 5% per year, you're getting $5,000 on your $20,000 down payment. That is a 25% return on investment. Objectives: define real property versus personal property. Define property rights and estates. Define types of deeds and titles. Methods of title insurance. Understand the purpose of a mortgage and a note. Definition: again, real estate is land at, above, and below the Earth's surface, plus everything permanently attached to it. This includes buildings, trees, fences, etc. Types of real estate: residential, commercial, industrial, agriculture, and special purposes. Now, this is what you will see on the zoning map. I'm going to get into zoning next week, but you're going to find these types of real estate on your zoning. Now, economics is basically supply and demand. So we deal with market value. Market value has a uniqueness to it, and there's also immobility. Now, when you have your supply, that's your labor force, material cost, government finance policies. And then when we deal with demand, that's your population, employment and wages, and demographics. Now, real property descriptions. Well, and you can also find this in surveying as well, like a surveying law class. So we deal with legal descriptions for real estate must be written and accurate. So there are basically three ways to describe a property. So we have meets and bounds, and that's the oldest type, which starts at the point of beginning, must start and return at POB. Monuments, natural object, tree, lake, stream. Now, where does that come from? That comes from land surveying. And then we look at rectangular, principal meridian and range lines, baseline, township lines. Where do we get that? So I'll tell you where we get that. We get that in what we call a public land surveying system. So meets and bounds, that's the oldest type. So a state like Maryland and Pennsylvania, they use meets and bounds, which you deal with bearings and distances. Where Ohio is where it starts, they deal with townships and ranges. Basically, a full township is 36 square miles. So you have each block, which is 640 acres. And then a quarter acre is 160 acres. And then we reach down to a lot and block, and that's on your plat map, your plat map. It's on your plat map, and your plat map has everything on there with the lot. You can see the property lines. You can see the bearings, the distances. It's a plat map. Lot. It's numerical designation of parcel. Then there is a block. It's a subdivision plat map that is filed under. You can find all this in the courthouse. Property rights. Well, legal descriptions only identify the surface of the land. So you have air rights, flyover rights, surface rights, subsurface rights. Then we have bundle of rights, possession, control, enjoyment, exclusion, and disposition. Real versus personal. Well, personal property is anything that does not fit the definition of real property, like severance. Real property becoming personal property by severing it from the land. And then we have annexation. It's personal property becoming real property. Definition of a fixture. It's basically when an item of personal property is so affixed to real property that it is deemed a part of the real property. It is known as a fixture. And we have legal tests of fixture. So basically, a fixture becomes real property and it's included in the sale and mortgage. So under a fixture, we have a method of annexation, an adaptation to real estate, an agreement. And then we have trade fixtures. That's a special category of fixtures that's used in business. And it also belongs to the tenant. And it's considered a permanent part of the building. Then we have the economic characteristics of real estate. So we have scarcity. That's supply in a given location. And we have improvements, building, drainage, sewer, and electrical. And we have permanence. Return is long-term, and we have a large fixed investment. And then a location, crime rate based on area. We also have immobility, can never be changed or moved. This is the physical characteristics of real estate. Now, then we have instructability, stabilizes investment, tear down and rebuilds. And again, uniqueness, never exactly the same. Title work. And again, if you're taking a surveying class, you're going to see this exact information in a surveying law class. Because when we deal with title, right to land, it shows ownership. Then we have a grantor. A grantor is the seller. It conveys property to a grantee. In other words, it sells the property to the buyer. The grantee is the buyer, and that's the person. The grantee receives the property from the grantee, from the grantor. The grantee receives the property from the grantor. But once it's all said and done, you got to have the deed. And a deed is a legal document which shows evidence of ownership, and it is used to transfer title to someone else. So the grantor has the title. And once the grantor sells the property to the grantee, the title goes to the grantee. Again, what you need to understand is when we deal with a title, it shows ownership. And you have two people involved. It's the grantor, which is the seller, and the grantee, which is the buyer. And when we deal with the deed, we deal with a legal document which shows evidence of ownership, and it is used to transfer title to someone else. Now, we have different types of deeds. We have your general warranty deed, your quit claim deed, your special warranty deed, your bargain and sale deed, and your trustee and court ordered deeds. So we have ways of giving notice. So we can physically occupy the property, and that provides an actual notice. Then we can record the documents in the public record. Anytime you record something, that is the best way to do it, because documentation becomes a record. And then there is the recorder of deeds. Document recording, two major purposes: protect existing interest and protect future purchases against secret and unrecorded interests. Docs that can be recorded: land contracts, mortgages, leases, deeds, power of attorney to sell, mortgage release, easements, mortgage assignments, and purchase options. Protecting titles: 1, attorney's title opinion; 2, title insurance; 3, the Torrens system. So the attorney's title option it's when the lawyer reviews the chain of title and renders an opinion that you have clear, marketable title. Advantages: you have an abstract review, it's a cheaper option, and it ensures multiple parties. Title insurance: the definition is it insures against financial losses caused by existing title defects. It insures against existing hazards, not future. One single premium, not periodic payments. So under the one single premium, again, under that one single premium, you have your lender's policy and your owner's policy. So basically, when we deal with title, if you have some hazards that are current, you don't have to worry about the hazards in the future. And you don't have to worry about periodic payments. Why? Because you have one single premium, then you have a lender's policy and an owner's policy. Policies that protect both parties. Where you have forged documents, a grantor's lack of capacity to sign, a lien remains after transfer, title not marketable, mortgage not enforceable, that's the lender, and then you have a priority of liens that was incorrect. Estates and land, titles and ownership. So under the title, you have a right of ownership of the property. And then you have the deed. It's a written document that conveys title to real estate. Okay. You have the estate, and here's what happens. You have your interest in real property. So you look at this chart, you have freehold estates ownership with right of inheritance, then you have the fee simple, absolute, and you have your inheritance and gift. So what you really have here, you have your present interest and your future interest. And then you have this, almost looks like what we call a bracket that you see for the NCAA tournament. Well, it's the same thing. You have your interest in real property, and this is under purchase, present interest rather, and it's under tenancies, manner of holding the current estates. And then you have your freehold estates ownership, your non-freehold estates. Then you have with right of inheritance, without right of inheritance, and then that's broken down into the fee simple absolute, the feasible fee restricted, legal life estate, conventional life estate. Then you have absolute, the terminable automatic termination, conditional not automatic. Then under legal life estate, you have your wife, husband, and homestead. And then you have your life tenancy for life of another. And then you go into your future, inheritance or gift, possible reversion to original grantor of heirs, or remainderment. So when it comes to property rights, there are limitations on property rights. So you have your encumbrance, and that's a claim against the title of the property which prevents the passing of the full and complete title. And you have an easement. We hear that term in land surveying. That's a right to use another person's property for a specific purpose, such as utilities. And under easement, you have by express grant, by necessity, by reservation, by implied easement, easement by prescription, and under easement by prescription, you have adverse possession, then you have profit easement and license easement. Also, you have encroachments that occurs when a building or other improvement illegally intrudes into the property of another. Now, this is why you have to get a surveyor to survey the property. And what the surveyor is going to do is going to find all your property points. Now, the points could be a pipe, it could be a piece of rebar, it could even be a wagon wheel. He's going to come out with his Schonstedt, that's a metal detector, to locate the property pins. Now, they've been removed. The surveyor will basically replace them. He'll go off a control point, whether it's a benchmark or a disc or a rebar cap, a monument to set that. And then he's going to look at the plat, and the plat, he's going to put in where he replaced the property pins. It's like an as-built. And then there's a lien. It's a charge or claim against a person's property made to enforce the payment of money. So does not prevent the transfer, sale of property. That's under lien. You have a mortgage lien, mechanics lien, a judgment lien, and a tax lien. And finally, you have a government limitation on rights. That's ownership of land is subject to other interests. So the enjoyment of land must not interfere with others. So we have government regulations, police powers, eminent domain, escheat, and taxation. And once again, when we deal with real estate, what we're really talking about is the physical land and the buildings or other improvements permanently attached to it, which can be used for residential, commercial, or industrial purposes. It's basically a tangible asset. Real estate is basically a tangible asset that can generate income, and that income can increase over time. And the increase will be the value over time, and it serves as a significant component of wealth creation and the overall economy. So again, key types include residential, commercial, and industrial properties. You have special and agricultural as well, each within its own regulations. So basically, investors can directly purchase property. Investors can directly purchase property or indirectly invest through vehicles like the Real Estate Investment Trust. That's known as a REITs. Now, to break it all down, again, what is real estate? Land and attachments. Real estate encompasses land and anything permanently attached to it, such as houses, buildings, and other structures, as well as natural resources like timber, minerals, and water. Again, it's a tangible asset. Unlike stocks or bonds, real estate is a tangible asset, meaning you can physically control and own it. Only if it's a capitalistic society. If we're under communism, the government is going to own it. Because under capitalism, you can own property. Then we have wealth and investment. So under wealth and investment, or let's call it investment in wealth creation, is a popular investment that offers the potential for passive income through rent, long-term appreciation, tax benefits, making it a power tool for building wealth. Then again, we have types of real estate, and it's in several category types. So we have residential, homes, apartments, and other properties used for living, including single family houses, condos, duplexes, and townhouses. Commercial, properties used for business, such as retail stores, offices, and shopping centers. Industrial, buildings and land used for manufacturing, production, and distribution, like factories and warehouse. Then we have land, undeveloped or raw land, which can be used for various purposes, or you can hold it as an investment. So, how to invest in real estate? There's direct investment. You can directly purchase properties like a rental home and manage them yourself, earning income from rent, and property value will increase. Then you can also have your real estate investment trust. Real estate investment trust. So there are companies that own and operate income producing real estate. Investing in a REIT allows you to gain exposure to real estate without the complexities of direct ownership, similar to buying stocks. Then you have your fractional ownership. This involves buying a share or fraction of a larger property, allowing for real estate investment with less capital. Then you might see this on TV. It's flipping. It's a strategy where investors buy undervalued properties, then they renovate them, and they sell them for a profit. And that is the information on real estate. Now, what I've given you is an introduction to real estate. See, a number of people, they will go and buy a house, but they don't understand mortgages. They don't understand REITs. They don't understand assets. But here's the thing. When you own a house, you have to hire your own contractor if something goes wrong. Now you have people who own a house and they may buy a second house and rent their current house out or their first house out, make money from the tenant. But even if you do that, you are still a landlord and you're responsible for the upkeep of that house. But real estate makes a lot of money. And there are different areas of real estate. Like, I want to do the home inspection and the appraisal part. That's part of real estate. That's an area that is in high demand. And even when the economy is up or if it's down, somewhere you can do business in real estate. Because real estate is part of the economy. And again, it's a tangible asset which can create you wealth. But you have to believe in capitalism. Because capitalism gives you an opportunity to own your property. And of course, control it. But you have to understand the deeds, you have to understand the laws, you have to understand what easements are, you have to understand what parcels, subdivisions, townships, ranges, meets, and bounds are. But when it comes to real estate's a good industry. But in order to succeed in it, you must understand the processes that go into real estate. And that completes this topic on the introduction of real estate. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for some political, social, media content, check out my main channel, the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show. Now, here's where you can find me. For the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show, you can find me right here on YouTube, find me on X, formerly Twitter, Rumble, and Truth Social. And for the QCIS channel, you can find me right here on YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, and of course, LinkedIn. Once again, thank you for viewing and listening to this topic on the Introduction to Real Estate, right here on the QCIS channel. On this channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious evening.